just over a week ago, I was marching in London, and I was marching for a march called Restore Nature Now. And I'd be interested to know if there's anybody here who's actually heard that that was going on. Could anyone put their hand up if they heard? Okay, very thin amount of people in this audience, and that is not surprising. Although we had Emma Thompson, Judi Dench, Chris Packham, all sorts of people, quite well-known names, nearly 100,000 people marching in London, crying out in despair about what is happening to our planet and the fact that there are species all over the UK, all over the world, that are being depleted. And yet, the coverage on the BBC was zero. Nothing. I looked on the BBC website afterwards, nothing. How many times did they cover Just Stop Oil, putting orange paint at Stonehenge? 6 articles at least on the BBC website. 100,000 people marching through London and zero. It's absolutely shocking. And of course people aren't aware about the urgency and the problem. And my banner, what did it read? It said, "The planet is dying, stop it crying." Sorry, the planet is crying, stop it dying. And actually, I wasn't the only person that was talking about tears. There was someone there about puffins and the plight of the puffins. Other people talking about insects, frogs, birds, all of which are in massive decline. And we really have to take account of these things. And in fact, what really sort of shocked me in a 40-year career of my environmental thing was watching a documentary called Breaking Boundaries with David Attenborough. It's still on Netflix. I urge you to have a look at it. There are 9 planetary boundaries. We're in the red zone for at least 8 of them. And the 9th one is the ozone layer. So just to give some... so in that documentary, as what I was going to say, is in that documentary, there were scientists who were also in tears. There was one who was talking about the Great Barrier Reef and what's happening in the Barrier Reef out there. He said that he thought that the Great Barrier Reef in Australia just wouldn't be there, wouldn't exist in the middle of this century. So only a few years from now. There was another scientist who was talking about her research on black cockatoos in Australia. And she was also in tears because all the cockatoos that she'd been researching were dead. They'd been wiped out by the forest fires in Australia caused by climate change, along with 3 billion other animals. So we are facing real impacts from climate change already. Last week, there was news about 1,300 pilgrims at the Hajj festivals dying from overheat. There were heat bubbles in California. And Chris was talking about the Paris Climate Change Agreement and saying it was setting levels, a maximum goal of 1.5 degrees heating above pre-industrial levels. 7 years later, that limit was breached, and we had a full 12 months of over 1.5 degrees centigrade in 2023. And scientists are now predicting that we're going to breach 2 degrees. So we're marching on with these things, and we're talking about these incremental changes. A couple of weeks ago, I went to the swan song speech of Caroline Lucas, who's the first Green MP now leaving Parliament. She was asked what she would do if she was Environment Minister. She said, actually, I wouldn't choose to be Environment Minister. I choose to be the Chancellor, because what I think that should be done is that the one big thing is that we should stop perverse subsidies. And I think just to illustrate that, currently the world is investing something like $7 trillion in fossil fuels, in subsidies, and a further trillion in investment. In contrast, renewable power is getting something like 1.3 trillion. It is totally ludicrous that we are propping up an industry. We are actually funding our destruction. Now, I'm very aware that we're talking here about what businesses can do. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of context to say what world are we actually living in, how is it actually currently working, and to demonstrate. And the one thing I really did agree with Chris with, that doesn't mean I didn't agree with anything else, but the one thing I did agree was that it is an opportunity for business. It is not, and is not something that should be seen simply as a threat. And that's one of the things that drives me mad if you watch the politicians or whatever. And you know, there are parties arguing about net zero, arguing about huge investments in in renewables and environmental technologies and things, that is completely bonkers. It's more jobs, more investment, more growth, more really positive things come out of investing in that. Whereas subsidizing fossil fuels, absolutely not. It's going to mean a huge amount more investment is needed in repairing the damage that we've done. So what do we really need? We need regenerative businesses. We need businesses that are looking at system change. We don't want businesses that are thinking, we're going to go on doing exactly what we've done before, but possibly a little bit greener. And actually, I have to admit that I've seen some businesses out there, which I think that's what they're proposing. People are talking about sustainability. I set up a company called Sustainability in 1987 and followed it with a book called The Green Consumer Guide, which sold over 1 million copies worldwide. At the time, what we were doing was we were highlighting the fact that if businesses were making greener products and services, they would get more business because they would get consumer support. And we were really excited because businesses heard our message. I started talking to the supermarkets in 1987 about what they were doing, and they had no idea what I was talking about. It was just a whole new world that they hadn't even heard of. After we wrote the Green Consumer Guide, and that came out a year later, I talked to them. Every single one had an environmental advisor because they recognized it was something that was important to their business. And of course, that was exciting. And we were working with Procter & Gamble, ICI, Marks & Spencer, all these big companies. And they came to us because they said, well, we realize environment's important, but what the hell do we do about it? And we were there advising them at the same time as rallying up consumers to say, you can do something, you can play a part, advising those big corporates that there was something they could do as well. But now we understand, nearly 40 years on from when I started, that what they were doing then is not nearly enough now, not for the age that we're at. It looked at the time that climate change was somewhere on the horizon, but as I've illustrated, it isn't. It's right here and right now. So we need a change in businesses. We need system change in businesses. We want them to look, what's the sort of world that we do want to live in? What are we trying to achieve? How is that vision going to work? And then they say, okay, what are the skills that we have, and how can we get towards that vision that we've created? And that's what system change means. So for example, if you're a big detergents company, you're not simply looking at how to sell more washing up liquid or dishwasher detergents. You're looking at how to change the thing. So maybe wash clothes less. Make sure that microfibers are not going into the environment through washing machines. A whole range of things are totally different to the narrative that most businesses are on. Two examples. One is a business called Rubbish Ideas. It's a new business that's coming out. It is focused on the circular economy, its mission to have a waste-free world. Those are the sort of businesses that we want. Another one, Ecotone, a whole lot of food businesses like Clipper Teas. And what are they focused on? Improving biodiversity. So the mission is not just a business mission about making money. Of course, they should do that. It's a mission about making the world a better place. And I've got that. So I just wanted to tell you about one sort of idea. Has anybody here heard about solar punk? I suspect probably nobody, but put your hand up if you have. Yes, somebody over there. Okay. So the exciting thing about solar punk is it is a positive vision of the future. So as opposed to cyberpunk, where it's a sort of dark and existential threat of sort of technology and waste and things, solar punk is an optimistic vision of the future. It's solar technology, it's plants all over the roof. It's the sort of world that we want to live in. And isn't it brilliant to actually have a vision of that? I'm starting a project in Bristol trying to create a solar punk exemplar building that's regenerative, that's circular, that's community-driven, that's thinking about system change, so that we can show people what can and should be done. So at the moment, we have a very divided world, and it's very difficult to see and focus on these issues. We have so many awful issues going on. I can't even describe how dreadful it is. And therefore, we're losing sight that this is probably a bigger issue than any of the others that are out there, which is the way that our planet can live and thrive. And after all, there is no business to be done on a dead planet. Thank you.